about about land use here at Green Anchor in North Portland. This is an industrial creative space that's next to the Willamette River, and we are making these collages to like kind of think about like the goals for the river, for the upland area on the land, and it's also a way for us to have something just kind of light and lively and fun. This is our second time meeting in person since the pandemic, and we're having a pretty good turnout. It's actually turned out really well. Continue. Okay. All right. Okay. Should I start that over again?
You sound great, Michael.
Okay. All right. So welcome everyone, and we are going to also this evening, Sarah Taylor is going to talk to us a little bit more about land use, the land use goals, and we're also going to have a little bit of a explanation of what Green Anchor is. Sarah Taylor will also explain like what is it they do down here, and why we really like being down here, like this place, and we're just super excited. And this is a very homespun evening tonight, so it's a little bit, we're kind of like, a little bit of a celebration too, about Willamette Cove, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. So I'm gonna come over here next to Sarah, and Sarah is going to do a, do you want to do a land acknowledgement? Should we do that now with everyone? Laura's gonna do it, and you're gonna do.
You're gonna just say congratulations about Willamette Cove.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna talk about this.
Okay.
And then we're gonna walk around the room.
Okay. All right then. So Laura Feldman is gonna do our land acknowledgement now. And this is Laura over here. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. It's gonna start. You'll have time to talk again, but we're gonna start with a land acknowledgement with Laura. Multnomah, Cathlamet, Tualatin, Calapooya, Siletz, Warm Springs. When People Turn to Pebbles by Stephen R. Jones. The Calapooya tell how the first myth age ended. When Earth turned over, stars were born. People became pebbles in the second, and the third age brought a flood. Changed two-leggeds to whales, beaver, and fishes. Finally, when the world was ready, the Calapooya came. Just as the mythic Spokane flood drowned the mountain spirits, Cha Chingmanwi reversed the Waloma, scoured the valley, so the Calapooya were driven from sight. One day, the Calapooya will re-emerge, birthed from boulders and flowing water, living myth that rests out of sight. Till then, the Walama soothes Calapooya souls in the water, bathes resting feet, refreshes these camas gathering, storytelling people in snowmelt. This valley holds Calapooya ways in trust. The river waits, the Calapooya wait, the myth rolls on. Calapooya, Molalla, Umpqua, Shasta, Rogue River, Upper Chinook, Grand Ronde.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. So giving some acknowledgement. So land acknowledgement. And so we're doing a little bit of a homespun Zoom tonight. I just wanted to do a quick celebration announcement. I don't know if everyone knows or not, but last, well, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, 2 Thursdays ago, Metro basically decided to do Metro Council voted for a complete cleanup of Willamette Cove. So great news. So many of us, all of us, have been working so hard for several years to make sure that powers that be, Metro, the port, the city of Portland, that we wanted Willamette Cove cleaned up. We did not want a contained facility there on the property. And we lobbied them hard enough. They listened to us, and I'm just super excited about it. I think this is a great thing for North Portland. We're all going to have a new park here in the future, and we won't have to worry about contamination from flooding or from any type of, any of the future, climate change issues that we know that impacts the Willamette River. So I want to say thanks everyone for being in solidarity to see this happen. So thanks to community in North Portland. Yeah. So that's a very, very exciting thing to happen. And now we're going to talk about what we're doing tonight. Yeah. So
hi everyone, and everyone that's here on the Zoom as well. And thank you to Green Acres for letting us be here in this site. In many ways, Green Acres is an eco-industrial art space that has over 49 businesses. And I just want to acknowledge that we're going to talk tonight about Oregon State land use planning rules. And just to acknowledge that Green Acres in many ways embraces the spirit that Tom McCall had when he made those rules, his vision for balanced land use planning. I am not the expert. Anyone who knows more than I know, please comment. I think it's fascinating that so few people even know they exist, given that they are not just a aspirational part of our state, but they are indeed a law. The bill was Bill 100. It was signed by Governor McCall in 1973. And if you begin to carefully look at land use planning, you will see that those rules are brought up over and over again to both defend things that people want and to oppose things that people don't want. So I think it's really important that people not only understand them, but that we honor the people who worked so hard to make sure that they left Oregon in good shape with these rules. And a person who knows a lot but couldn't be here tonight said, always remember, not one of these rules is more powerful than the other. They are to be implemented in balance. And so it is not that rule number 9, the one that nobody actually took for a long time, is not, which is the place for jobs, is not more powerful than the greenway or clean air. These are balanced rules. And when you justify a land use, you have to make sure that all of the rules are honored. So what we did tonight is we took those rules, 19 of them, and the 20th one is going to be climate and equity. Looking forward to that becoming official. And we made collages. And our vision was, if this is no longer 1970, but if we're to look through the lens of 2022, which of course Tom McCall could not have imagined. How would you interpret that rule? What would you bring to that? So that is what we did. And I'm going to ask each person who did one, and we'll start in order if we can, to share their picture with each other and with the people on the Zoom call, and briefly read the rule, and then state why you chose that. Why was that attractive to you? And why did you choose some of the art that you did around that? We don't actually have to go in order. Maybe I'll go first to be kind. I chose number 3, which is agricultural lands. And it says exclusive farm use or EFU lands. This goal is the reason why. It states that agricultural lands will be preserved and maintained for farm, consistent with existing and future needs for agricultural products, forest, and open space, and requires counties to inventory such lands. So I'm in Portland, and so I thought about what does it mean to have agricultural lands within an urban setting? And so I don't know whether you can see my picture, but I put the joy of food, bringing family and friends together. This world can thrive. And then just a little quote, what causes human hunger? So I tried to give the agricultural rule for this state an urban fix. Okay.
Hi, Michael. This is the online advocate, Scott.
Yes.
Didn't put that picture a little closer so we can see it.
And
maybe you could come up here to make Michael's life.
or I can walk
You can walk
around.
around.
Yeah, I can walk around, and then that way everyone can enjoy themselves and still
That's a
communicate.
great idea, Michael.
When you finish, bring your picture up here. You're ready? Okay, Jan's ready.
Okay, all right.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jan. Nice to see you all. I have citizen involvement. Calls for the opportunity for citizens to be involved in all phases of the planning process. City and county must have a citizen involvement program containing 6 specified components. I don't know what those are, but I'm going to look them up. Local governments must have a committee for citizen involvement to monitor and encourage public participation in planning. So I chose this one because I didn't know anything about this, and I'm a member of the public, and I'm wondering why I didn't know anything about this. And so I was thinking about how just people rise up all the time. We do when we see things that are need changing, and often it's left to the public to actually force the changes. But if there's actually part of the government, I mean, the government is telling us that we have that right, it feels different to me than what we've had to do before, like lay our bodies on a railroad track and things like that. So that's why I chose this.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey.
All right, and I can go. I can do mine here. You want to?
Michael, go ahead and give us a little more chance to look at that image.
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay.
Just count to 5 seconds. That'd
And
be good.
people also can comment. Anybody want to give a comment on that one? I haven't been letting people comment. Anyone have a comment or a appreciation or anything about?
This was the first one here.
Everybody eats something in honor of that.
Okay, and I guess I'll do mine. Mine was coastal shorelines. Coastal shorelines defines a planning area bound by the ocean or beaches on the west and the coast highway US 101 on the east. It specifies how certain types of land and resources there are to be managed. Major marshes, for example, are to be protected. Sites best suited for unique coastal lands, port facilities, for example, are reserved for water dependent or water related uses. So unfortunately, all I was able to find was was some wildlife, some seagoing wildlife next to the ocean, and next to the coastal animals like crabs, manatee, which we don't have in Oregon, unfortunately, but we do have dolphins. And some people walking next to grassy wetlands next to the coast. I also, have on here, live your life. To know is not enough. That kind of resonated with me because it takes action as well, to protect what you love and what you care about. You can't just know about it. You have to actually work to keep it. War on itself this year kind of reminds me that we're kind of like, basically warring with ourselves with the way that we use resources on the planet. Unfortunately, we don't use them at the wisest way that we can. And hopefully we'll learn. I think the younger generation is doing a good job, doing a better job. And then also live your life, even though things may not be as perfect as we would like for them to be. We want to still live our life and see the blessings that we have around us as much as we can. So so this is why this resonated with me, and I love mountains, and I love seeing, mountains to oceans or forests to oceans. It's one of the beautiful things about the Pacific Northwest. So so that's it there. And this is
That's
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you.
yeah, you can be where you are too if you want to. And if you don't want to be recorded, I can just record your image as well. So
I chose two, which is land use planning. There's a lot of legalese in this, so I'm just gonna read the first line. So land use planning outlines the basic procedures of Oregon's statewide planning program. So just how should we best utilize our land? And one of the first picked images I found was this one of this Native American woman. And it just really struck me that, we really can use the indigenous philosophy to better manage our land for land use planning. And I then found these images of bears and a wolf. And I just was thinking about how this year with global warming, we have fruits ripening in the mountains. So the bears were coming down looking for food. So I just chose some wild animals so that we can think about how we can better do land use planning that thinks about our wild animals. And it says on here, protect wildlife and wild places.
We'd like to see that picture if you don't mind. Thanks, Michael, for helping the online folks here.
Michael, are you able to speak up so we can see your photo big?
one more time.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, let's go. All right.
So I chose the land use that had to do with the quality of water, air, and natural resources. They're there to protect us. So I just took the image of a stream, cut it up, cornered it, and there's the animal in the middle. One of our natural resources to protect. The other one that I did is kind of a spin-off on it. Last drop. How far do we have to go till we're at the last drop? And the images that I chose were our bird friends caught in wires, barbed wire, and fencing all around. So I feel like I'm part of this picture when I see the way the world is being handled right now. And want to make a difference. Let's have more than the last drop. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Caroline. So I did two. Urbanization requires cities to estimate future growth needs for land and then plan and zone enough land for those needs and establish urban growth boundaries. So I happened to find this PSU magazine that pretty much had all the info I could ever need. There's a kind of a sort of a spaced out guy behind this probably brick, non-seismically safe, but multifamily housing. And a really scary kind of like an industrial zone, maybe with housing on the fringe, and then kind of this ultra modern glass pyramid, and then a tiny house village, and then a large tree that's catching the solar rays that's protecting us from solarization. And so it's just baffling why some people have so much house and some people have so little, and why it's such a big deal to get basic housing for everyone. So that's what that one is about. And the other one is regarding estuarine or river resources, requiring local governments to classify Oregon's major estuaries into 4 categories, then describes permissible land use activities in those management units. So this came from a magazine about the Mackenzie River, and it's just full of river images. And at the fundamental lower level of the page, as with the river, is featured very prominently a beautiful, healthy fish. And then this is a complicated image that has a river and a guy fishing, but it also has some sort of a very intensive man-made structure that might be for flood control, water retention, maybe even power generation. Up in the corner is a river with a guy boating, and here's a picture below the surface of 2 otters that you can't really see unless you're maybe below the surface. So those are mine. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay. And, so, okay, all right. Got one more.
Okay, I chose ocean resources, and that's aims to conserve. Can you hear me over this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aims to conserve the long-term values, benefits, and natural resources of the nearshore ocean and the continental shelf. It deals with matters such as dumping of dredge spoils, and discharging of waste products into the open sea. Goal 19's main requirements are for state agencies rather than cities and counties. So I did the ocean with, some life is still in the ocean. And then one question I had while I was collaging, and my sister brought this up too, is, well, am I collaging this and interpreting this as we've done this and we have conserved the natural resources and they're there and they're healthy and they're alive, or am I collaging this to show that there's the dredge spoils in the ocean? So I made the net look like this so that that's open to interpretation. Are these fishermen pulling up lots of great healthy fish from the ocean, or are they pulling up gross grime and oil spills? And that's up to us to decide how that is going to look in the future.
I like that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. Do we have any other volunteers at all, or folks who are, if you want to? Okay, cool. So I can come over to you too if you want.
Hi, my name is Laura Feldman. I'm with the Willamette River Advocacy Group. And my collage, it's not finished. It's transportation. Aims to provide a safe, convenient, and economic transportation system. It asks for communities to address the needs of the transportation disadvantaged. And I added climate change because I think the city is clueless about climate change. I'm gonna come out and say it. This collage is about the frog ferry. I put frogs in here, and I was working on the theme. I can't believe the city did not pass the frog ferry. It's low-hanging fruit. There's federal money for ferries, and the city needs one. We on the North Portland Peninsula who walk, who ride a bike, who try to take this effing transit system know that we need a ferry that crosses the river. And I'm still pissed. I will be forever pissed at the city for not passing this. It's got to come. We have to rise up and be like most port cities and have a transportation ferry. It makes sense. It's climate friendly. And come on, City of Portland, do your effing job.
Yeah.
Why I love Laura. Hi, I'm Susan Gladholm with Frog Fairy. And guys,
Yay!
it's so meaningful because we have been clobbered, and I can't begin to tell you how much it lifts my spirits, and I videotape you to share with the board and with Amy, who leads marketing, because we are just like this little engine that could, that really is, you know, fueled by people like Laura and all of you that are here. And I just want you to know that despite all the hits, we're really trying to figure out what's next for us. And I'm trying to get comfortable. People are saying you just have right on your side. We're really trying to do this the right way and for all the right reasons. And so I love the fact that I got a quote from Tom McCall, who is our former Oregon governor and co-founder of 1,000 Friends Behind These Rules. And it just says, keep Oregon lovable and make it even more livable. And so I really, I love this. And I think sometimes Oregon is getting loved too much. And I'm a pretty avid hiker. And when I see so many people out on our paths and out at the coast and all, and just to remember there's that balance. And so I have this photo, it's a Port of Portland photo, and I spent 10 years there, but it's showing really the man-made aspects of things with nature. And I think like Metro coming through the Cove is really important. We've got to champion those organizations that are trying to do better and need to continue to improve. So it's that balance. I also just added a plate here of plant-based foods on here, and just from a natural resource perspective and showing that balance and land use aspect. And then I put a frog on here too for Frog Fairy. So thank you all so much for
Thank you.
providing this forum.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Do we have one more over here? Okay. I feel like I'm in like River Church. Who's got to testify? Hi there.
I came a little late. Hi, my name is Charlotte, and there was only one left, one rule. So I got the last rule. No one had picked economic development. Wonder why? So really, but I do have some serious thoughts on that. Well, let's read what it says. Calls for diversification and improvement of the economy. It asks communities to inventory commercial and industrial lands, project future needs for such lands, and plan and zone enough lands to meet those needs. That's great, but what are we going to do with those lands? I think I have to do something new. So I thought clean tech that our next generation is going to develop, because it really struck me just a couple weeks ago, NOAA and Bonneville Power Administration came out with big reports and released them through the White House saying, here's how we're going to replace the energy that the Snake River dams are going to lose if they take the Snake River dams out. Well, they actually said in those reports that technology has to be created now. We're only halfway done with creating it. So that's economic development. Is new. Let's teach our kids. Let's have them develop the land. Let's get them bringing in the ideas. So that's what this is. It's the next generation education.
Yeah. Okay, next generation education. Right there. All right. Okay. You're right here, you're fine.
So I picked rule number 7, which is areas subject to natural disasters and hazards. And so it deals with the development in places subject to natural hazards such as floods and landslides. It requires jurisdictions apply appropriate safeguards, floodplain zoning example when planning for development there. So the biggest impending problem we have of a natural disaster is right across the river here, of course, and we all know the tank farms. I mean, it'll be when the earthquake is here, it'll be a catastrophe larger than the Deepwater Horizon spill. You know, it's going to contaminate, well, it'll destroy Linton, it'll destroy lots of St. John's, and it'll go to the fire will reach the Willamette, and all the fuel will go into the Willamette, go to the Columbia, go to the ocean, and Forest Hills Park will probably be on fire. And I mean, it's just a huge, huge disaster that we have to mitigate for beforehand. And you know, I brought this up, rule number 7, many times to the city, and the oil companies seem to have absolute power, but they don't. They really don't have absolute power. So we need to boot them out. You know, even there's a new DEQ just passed a law that the tank farms, which largely refuse to cooperate with DEQ and other, you know, but anyway, the new law is that they have, the new rule is that they have to, by 2024, they have to state the hazards, you know, from earthquake, and they have to do mitigation, and their proposal for mitigation is how they're going to do it. But you know, there's not even enough land over there that they can do the mitigation. The tanks are so close that the only solution really is that they have to move to other areas, you know. So anyway, so that's what mine was about. Give the boot to the tank farms.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Do we have any other volunteers? All right. Okay.
Mine's falling apart already. When I came here, I, like everybody new to this area, I said Willamette, and I was corrected on the pronunciation of that. But then my thing that I picked here was efficient planning for public services such as sewers, water, law enforcement, and fire protection. And that public services should be planned in accordance with community needs and capacities, rather than to be forced to respond to development as it occurs. So then when Channel 8 started that series called What's in the Name, I had already written a story called What's in the Name, which has to do with the naming of the various places right around here. Because I was part of the Red River campaign and trying to learn what it is all about. And so I found out that, well, I noticed, because I come from other areas where the naming of the cities and roads and whatever are often in the language of the people of that area. Well, the indigenous people of this area were sort of left out, it seems. So what I did was I found a cutout here that has a bunch of words in various native indigenous languages. And then down here, we are here. And then a couple of pictures to that effect, and a picture of Sakatawea. And so to me, we should be trying to name the places, or at least know what the names are, where they come from. Well, you're the person who's done all the history, right? No, somebody here who's done all the history of the names. And so, well, Willamette is actually a Chinook word, which I'm not going to try to pronounce, but it's say it.
I think it's Willamette.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's even more,
Very short.
yeah, it's got a consonant thing in there that we don't do. So it's actually indigenous names, but most people here think it's probably comes from the French, because the French were here. And so that's the whole thing, is we think it's okay to have French because there were French here, but we never think that this was really indigenous to begin with.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. So here we go. Yeah,
I'm
this is great.
I'm not an artist. That's for sure.
You're great. You're great. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I thought it was a fascinating.
And is there, let me see if I can see if there's anything online here. See if there's any comments. Let's see here. All right, virtual folks say that the art looks great. So, yeah, okay, next person. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you're good, huh?
Housing. And it says, specifies that each city must plan for and accommodate needed housing types such as multifamily and manufactured housing. It requires each city to inventory its buildable residential lands, project future needs for such lands, and plan and zone enough buildable land to meet those needs. It also prohibits local plans from discriminating against needed housing types. And then on this picture, I just put a bunch of different animals and birds living together. And I said, I equals every human and living thing. And it says, I do live here. And it says, I equals housing is a basic human need and should be given to everyone not afforded. And it's all the things that live here. And I said, in parentheses, can't we learn from nature where housing is abundant?
Very good. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Wow, that's great. All right. Show that one more time. That's fantastic. Okay. All right. So, and if folks don't want to come up too, I can, if you want to I can just show your artwork to the online community. If you don't want to know, some people are camera shy. So I don't want you to feel as though that you're obligated to come up at all. I can come around to you and you can just tell me, or I can just, take a quick video shot of what you created for prosperity's sakes. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right.
Energy, land and uses developed on the land shall be managed and controlled so as to maximize the conservation of all forms of energy based on sound economic principles. It ended up, I think my post was pretty depressing. And it just kind of how the pictures came together. The ones I found, one geothermal energy, which I suppose is green energy, although looking at it, it looks pretty ugly to me. Picture of Lake Powell with a little bit of water in it, which it kind of doesn't have now. There was an interesting article on some communities take their trash and they burn it, and that produces energy. There's good parts of that in that you're not having to mine, you're not having to drill, and a lot of the trash is basically paper, which is essentially renewable. Also, you're not putting it in the ground where you have a bit of probably toxic stuff that's going to sit there essentially forever. On the other hand, you are emitting pollutants, and you're also burning a lot of stuff that's probably not very good to burn, and God knows what people throw in their trash. But to be a little bit positive, I had a bicycle, and that's probably the best we can do is try to minimize our bike instead of drive if we can. Try to look at all our lives and try to figure out how we can do what we need to do using less energy. The whole reason I did this is because Jackie said she'd do it.
Nice to see you.
Is that everybody? Do we have any others? Oh, here comes Jackie.
So here's the last one. Here's what we got. One more. You can see that there.
Where's his rule?
Okay.
I thought his rule was important enough to read again, and since I didn't really get a rule, declares that land users or uses developed on the land should be managed and controlled so as to maximize the conservation of all forms of the energy based upon sound, economic, and ecological and climate change principles. I added a few. I didn't have a rule, so I just did what I was thinking about, and that is, this is the bug, and that just means that we're going to bug people to death until we get our river cleaned up. River, and of course, it's water, and water is life, so I think it's vitally important. And I'm going to whine about the city too, because they withdrew Friends of Trees grant. So no one's planting trees in the parking strips anymore. Although my daughter went out and planted succulents, and we need all the plantings that we can get to help the environment, to help the climate. And that's what mine's about.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, sorry about that.
You got that one there? Okay. So we go. Got our river down there. There's our bug. All right. All right.
Hi,
Hi there.
I'm Pablo the Martian, friendly neighborhood Martian.
Pablo the Martian.
Born and raised in North Portland. My grandfather was swimming in the harbor when there were sailing ships in the harbor in the 1890s. And when I was in the early 60s, when I and my brothers and neighborhood friends were swimming in the river, it was like you dove into an emerald. Because the open water, it was just all green. And then they started cleaning up the river. It was condemned. Mom said we were going to catch hepatitis. We never did. And then and Goal 15, the Willamette Greenway. So when I heard about this in '73, I thought, this is pie in the sky. It's never going to happen. For those of you who aren't really familiar with it, the Willamette Greenway is supposed to be a trail from Eugene to the Columbia River on both sides of the river. And it's in the comprehensive plan. But every time there's a thing like a river plan meeting or this or that, different people of industry and everything to try to whittle it back. It was supposed to be 175 feet. It was supposed to be 200 feet at one time. We tried to get it down to 75. So we all need to pay attention to what's going on. When you hear about a river plan or this or that, and you see on a bulletin board or the Asian Reporter or the Oregonian that there's going to be a hearing on this, you need to go. And I'm glad to hear that Willamette Cove, they decided to clean the whole thing up. I don't know how many people were here during the UDAG project, but we paid for Willamette Cove, the citizens of Portland. And this includes, doesn't matter if they were property owners or not. If you were renting an apartment someplace, you were paying the property owners taxes. We bought Willamette Cove not once, not twice, 3 times. We bought Willamette Cove 3 times, we the taxpayers. And the last time it was paid for with money from a Metro bond measure to provide access to nature. It's really important to remember that word, access. Subsequent Metro bond measures were money to protect nature. So it's a breach of trust when they try to keep us out of Willamette Cove. I'm glad to see that they're going to clean it up. There was times when they wanted to trade it off for I forget the name, for a compensatory zone so that somebody could flute down in Terminal 5. And then they would sacrifice that and then would wall it off and not let the public in. But Willamette Cove is ours. We paid for it 3 times. We need to pay attention. And goal 15, it's one of the basic things. I thought it was pie in the sky. I never thought it would happen. But actually, it's about halfway there, believe it or not. But we have to make sure. Economic development, if people can walk and bike this river from Eugene to Portland, Portland to Eugene and back, I mean, people will come from around the world to do that bicycle trip. So thank you all for showing up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, okay. Well, this has been great. It's been wonderful to hear people's voices, to hear community. We thought it was about time that we heard from you guys instead of hearing from me or Sarah all the time. So thank you for being a part of the meeting tonight. I think we're going to head down.
I just want to do a wrap up.
Oh, do a wrap up? Okay.
So I want to thank everybody for doing the art, being vulnerable and visiting with people and sharing how they interpreted those rules. In the near future, we are required because of these rules to do a part of our comprehensive plan. We're going to do a North Reach plan. And when we do the North Reach plan, we already have a south and we already have a central. The city will need to demonstrate that all these rules are taking place in the North Reach. So these rules are your rules. And I guess that's just what I want to say. And I also want to really honor Tom McCall for having the vision, because I think as we heard these rules, we could see that he really was able to look towards the future and to leave this very loving legacy to the state of Oregon. We just have to make sure that we don't forget them and that we insist that these rules be followed. So thank you, everybody. It was such a pleasant night here by the river. We're going to walk down to the river now and do a little river ceremony and with Laura and give you a chance to be on the river at almost sunset. And then any help picking up afterwards would be appreciated. And thanks to the people. Let's all give a big wave to the people at home.
Okay, so we're gonna head down and head down to the river real quick, and then after that we'll call it an evening to our second virtual CAG meeting.
Michael, so you're gonna walk down now and we're gonna stay online if we want to
Well,
see
how do
the.
we do that? Do we want to just call it good?
It's up to them if they want to be part of it.
Do folks want to be a part of it? If folks want to vote online, give us a thumbs up, and I'll stay on as.
I'll
as
stay
long-
on. Anyone who wants to get off, they're welcome now to close, because you're saying that the meeting is officially closed, correct?
Well, yeah, we're gonna walk down. I think we're gonna walk down now. Let me. Sarah, are we gonna walk down now?
Yeah, let's all go, everybody.
Yeah, I think we're gonna walk down now.
And let's follow Laura.
Yeah, grab some food or a drink if you like.
Follow Laura to the river.
All right, well, I'm gonna stay here and with you, Michael.
Okay.
Laura, Laura, you're our first person. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Michael, for thank you.
Are you guys gonna come down to the river?
We're gonna
Oh,
walk to the river.
isn't that great over there? So neat. So we're walking down to the river now, and we have people just checking out some of the crazy things that are around here, from booms to fire pit balls.
I could connect right from
Yeah, some creative. Yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah.
Housing alternatives or office alternatives. There's so many of them sitting around.
And right now, it's just Seattle, this is just- they actually have to go and lease land or lease on
Yeah, because it was kind of one-way shipping there for a while. And we all got stuck in one place and then.
So this has been a pretty good evening, a really good evening. We're all super excited. This is a working port. It is a creative space. So we have music and we have people going about their business and doing what they do. There's always interesting surprises around here. So we have some swans over here. So there's always something fun to see. So we really are excited that this is going to be our future home. And now we are next to a big digger here. So there is always work that's going on around here as well. The people who run this place are super talented. There's all types of amazing skills. So now we are at the river, and there is a little bit of a glare, but we're at the river now, and there's Laura over there, just where she's gonna land. And I'm under the impression that this is where we'll do the ceremony, right over here. So this is a little area here next to the river, next to Green Anchor. And I believe too that these large logs that you see here are some logs that they've actually have come out of the river, and they see them floating down and they grab them. I think I don't want to say that that's what they do, but or they just ended up here too. They probably just washed ashore as well. Okay, so I'm not. We're kind of having like it's a dance water ceremony, is what Sarah said. So I'm gonna stand next to Sarah, so at least you can hear Sarah. And so if folks can't hear Sarah, you can Laura, you can probably go online and see the video and
Michael, we are not able to hear the voices. So if you want to call Sarah over closer to you.
So we are just coming to the end of the 77th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I went to an event yesterday. So I've been thinking about rivers, and I've been thinking about the Ota River in Hiroshima. I've been thinking about the Urakami River in Nagasaki. I've been thinking about the Pripyat River that flows past Chernobyl. I've been thinking of the deeper river, which the Pripyat River flows into, in the Ukraine. So these are our rivers, and they're highly challenged. And once we befoul them, that's it. So I was going through some information today, I was reading a little bit about the atomic field after the bombings, and I wanted to just share a little bit. First of all, I wanted to share a snippet from Emil Freeberg, who is the chair of the RAG. And I really love this. She wrote this for a water altar that was at the river gathering. The river lives where it wants, but it is constantly being influenced by the people and creatures that interact with it. By taking some of the river and bringing it here, we're reminded of its constant presence, its fragility, and our ability to manipulate or protect it. And I just need to share a little bit about the atomic bombing because I've been reading about it. I try to focus on this every year so that I better understand it. This piece is about Give Me Water, a harsh cry of the atomic narrative. Some of you might know that, after the bombing, a cry for water rang out again and again in the atomic field. People were desperate for water. And water is an elemental symbol of a flourishing environment, juxtaposed narratives of desecration and purification recall the bodies of the dead clogging the waterways and harmonizing with the ecosystem, just as bodies melded with Urakami's soil in the wake of the bomb. I think it's really important for us to remember this. It's important for me to remember it. Mayeke Reiko arrived at the Urakami River on 10 August 1945 and observed a scene of ghostly chaos. Burned and blackened people were standing in line for water on the stone steps leading down to the river. Young and old alike were groaning, water, water, after a person at the front of the line scooped up a handful of water from the river and sipped it. That person never lifted his or her head again. All of them would let themselves fall into the river. The next person in line would take a sip and fall into the river. Another and yet another followed in return. And the science for this is that burned and blackened people were standing in line for water. Let's see if I can find it. They died drinking the water, which they were desperate for. But the challenge was that The water after the atomic bombing led to diarrhea and vomiting, and their irradiation added to the misery. Water may have actually aggravated blood loss, sustained, and injuries. After drinking water, increasing fluids intake above a certain range leads to intracranial pressure, pulmonary edema, or heart failure. So these people were very physically challenged, burned, hurt, and drinking the water just threw their system into a shock, and they fell into the river, which is really kind of horrifying. So the atomic bombing brought severe environmental consequences, including blast, fire, and irradiation. The consequences of the bleeding of radioactivity into oceanic ecosystems since the 211 Fukushima disaster also prevents devastation on an even greater environmental scale. So the Urakami River running through Nagasaki gradually returned to its wholesomeness, but it took years, and it was full of bodies for years. So I just think about this when I think of this river, trying to just communicate a little bit of this. We need to protect this river, and by protecting it, maybe we protect other rivers that are so challenged right now. At the event yesterday that Oregon PSR did down at the waterfront park, Yukio Kawano reminded us that the Japanese government is about to dump tons of irradiated water into the ocean in March. This is their way of cleaning up that tragic nuclear accident. So we need to do what we can to stop that wherever we find it, however we can. Yes. All the rivers, all the waters are connected, and the more we pollute them, we will need this river one day. We will be breaking it. This is my theory.
Yeah, we need the river now.
Yes, we need the river now.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we need to connect with the river, and I brought my grandmother's cup, which broke just now when we were up there. So what I'm going to do is scoop out some of the river, and I'm going to give you each a drop so that you connect with this river and know that it's the river in you. You need this
And there goes our water ceremony officiant going to the water there. I am not going to record or go through the whole process of her going to the water and giving it to each person, but thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for being online. And this music actually fits really perfect talking about nuclear catastrophe. So yeah, thank you all for joining us this evening, and we can't wait to see you again soon. Okay, have a great evening. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Michael. I'll be shutting down in about 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much. It was good to see you, Good to see you, Topaz. All righty.
Good night. Good night, everyone.